for joining me today. We are going to be talking about setting up PayPal invoices for your buyers. And I have to admit that I really find PayPal has their invoice option set up very user-friendly. It's really easy to use, and there are features that they have with it make it even better, such as being able to send refunds in whole or in partial amounts, and reminders, print out packing slips, and if you have an account with a shipping service such as with UPS or FedEx, being able to print your shipping label from home. And there's just really a lot of great features with PayPal, and they're all really easy to use. So to get started, what you would do is log into your PayPal account. You would click on send in a request. You would choose create invoice. You would choose the create new invoice option. And you would get to this screen. Once you're here, you can choose what type of template you'd like. I always use quantity. I like to line item everything that the buyer is paying for and they're receiving, instead of just using one whole amount, that this is the amount we agree with, this is the amount you're paying. I just like to break it down so that there's not any misunderstandings as to what they are paying for when they receive their invoice, and it just makes it a more professional feel and more honest feel. Over here you have your invoice number. You can put any number that you want to put in there as your starting number, and it will go up in increments of 1 for every further invoice that you do. So in this example scenario, we have invoice number 39, and once I set this one, the next invoice would be invoice 40, and so on and so forth. Invoice date, I always choose due upon receipt. If for any reason you have a different schedule with your buyer, let's say you have reoccurring shipment options, and so every 2 weeks you're going to be sending them an invoice. If you want to create one in advance and have the invoice go out on a different date, have the invoice go out now, but to be billed for them to make a payment on a different date, you can definitely do that. So if that's something that they would like to do, and have the date on there as a future reminder. Here we have the bill to. You would put in their email address. For example, I guess. And then here it asks to add customer details. You can fill this out. I never do fill it out. I allow the customers to fill out their own information. Usually they just use the information when they have their own PayPal account. It just auto-populates for them. The one thing that I do want to point out, though, is the importance of double checking that address information when the customer, or in this case when the buyer, pays their invoice. Make sure that the shipping address they place is the same shipping address that you agreed upon when you initially gave them their quote, because that could affect the shipping cost in a small or big difference, but it could affect the shipping cost in general. However, it's really kind of hard to say, but it's also important to make sure that they didn't accidentally forget to update their shipping address, that their default address in PayPal had changed because, let's say, they moved but they never updated it, so they never updated it, so their default address is in fact not their shipping address, and you want to make sure that that is accurate. Obviously because you want to make sure you're shipping to the right address. And the other reason is, if PayPal receives a claim from a buyer that you did not ship a package to them, that they did not receive it even though you did, but they say that they didn't, PayPal is going to look at the address on file, and they're going to check the tracking information. If the address does not match in both the tracking and the invoice, then the buyer will be able to win that dispute. So you want to make sure that the address that's listed on the invoice when they pay it is the one that you are going to be shipping to. I also highly advise against using PayPal to collect a payment from any local pickups. The same rule applies. If you do not have proof of delivery, if that is online and certified, such as like a tracking number through like UPS, FedEx, USPS, or anything like that, you don't have proof of delivery. And so a buyer can submit a claim and they will win that claim, and you will have to reimburse, or PayPal will reimburse the money and want that reimbursed back to them from you. So don't use PayPal for local pickups, cash only, and always make sure that the shipping address that the customer inputs is accurate to the one that you have used as your quote. And let's see, one second. Now, if they do want to change and say, well, no, this address now is the one they want to use, then you are going to need to cancel that invoice. And I'm sorry, if they do want to use that one, you want to check check for your shipping calculations and make sure that your shipping quote is going to be the same at that new address. Otherwise, you're going to need to cancel the invoice and create a whole new invoice with the correct shipping estimate that the customer has agreed upon. You need to communicate that with them. So here's their bill to. You wouldn't need to fill out the CC. Here I use quantity, US dollars. So in the description I would write, and I kind of pre-wrote this out for this example, and I restate in the description what the breast milk is to kind of help them feel a little more like reassured that that is in fact what they are getting based on the ad that they responded to. And here we have quantity. We're going to use $500, or excuse me, 500 ounces. And we have, oh wait, we need to go here, kind of take out the tax, take out the detailed description. There's going to be no item discount, date's not necessary, no invoice discount, unless you're going to have discounts. You can take that out. Definitely leave in shipping and handling. So let's go back here. So you have your breast milk line item, 500 ounces at $1.75 an ounce, and it does the calculation for you on how much it is for that. Let's go to the next item. We'll use cooler 16 by 16 by 16, and let's say we're charging $20 for it because that was our cost. And here's my scenario example that I had created. And so we have the breast milk 500 ounces, cooler $20. Oh, dry ice. So dry ice, 5 pounds. Oh. And so dry ice at $1.49 a pound, and you're using 5 pounds. You can just write 5 pounds, or excuse me, dry ice. You don't have to put 5 pounds. And now we're going to have, so we have the breast milk, the cooler, the dry ice. We're not charging anything for the filler. You can write that in there. You can put, let's see, filler. Newspaper. And just leave it at $0. You don't really have to do that, but if you want to, you can. And shipping and handling we had at $250. And the total here is $1,152.45, and that does match up. And the next thing we want to do is fill out note to recipient terms and conditions. Allow partial payment. I would not check mark that since that's not something that I do accept. Okay, and from here we have the note to recipient, and I'll just go ahead and I already wrote this up for my example scenario. Let's go ahead and just place this in here. Oh, and another thing that PayPal has, this is really great, is once you create an invoice, you can actually just duplicate one that you've already created. So if you have, let's say, somebody who've already purchased breast milk from you once before and they want the exact same order, you could just duplicate it, and it just makes it so much easier instead of having to kind of fill out all this information every single time. Or if you have somebody else who has who makes an order exactly the same, you can duplicate that too and just update just the few little things that you need to update, like the shipping and handling costs and their email address. Now, again, if you have a buyer, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but if you have a buyer who does not have a PayPal account, they can still use the PayPal invoice to pay on just by using their debit card or credit card, and everything would be exactly the same way that you do everything, and they would still be covered on the PayPal buyer seller protection program. So that's really awesome. So here under so here under the notes, I have my little thank you and a reminder about not using P.O. boxes, to make sure that they have their correct physical address on file, and I always throw in what their shipment expectations should be so that they are aware that there is no misunderstanding or miscommunication that had happened. It would all be in there. And then here under terms and conditions, I fill that out also. And here is what I actually write. You can write whatever you want as your own terms and conditions. And when you write one, you can try to write your own wording for yours instead of just using exactly what I wrote. That, that might be helpful, so that way it pertains to how you are doing your practices instead of, just duplicating what I may do. But if it suits to what you're doing, you're definitely welcome to use my example to help write your own. So I write no returns, sale is final, shipment will be insured, UPS insurance paid by seller to protect buyer on shipment arrival and condition. And at the end, I have buyer also gets PayPal buyer protection to assure product is as expected and promised. And the reason I write that in there is because I write that in there. And it can be a little uncomfortable for a buyer to read that once they receive this, the breast milk shipment, that I have no intention of receiving it back, that it is theirs, and that I don't really plan on refunding their money just because they changed their mind or anything like that. And so with this being such a sensitive transaction, for me, I felt it was important to include that a reassurance that they will get what they're paying for, and they're not having to worry about me scamming them or tricking them because I have this no return sale is final terms and condition in there. That it's just there because I won't accept a return just because they changed their mind. And they are going to get exactly what they paid for, and they have the PayPal buyer protection to reassure them that they don't have to worry. So those things there. You can attach any files here. And then at this point you can preview your invoice. You can go ahead and send it, or you can save it for later. Once you send it, you will receive an email from PayPal stating that your invoice has been sent successfully. They will receive an invoice sent to their email, and you will also find a copy of that in your activity. You click on activity, and your invoice activity or your activity screen will come up, and you'll find a line item showing your invoice that you sent, and it'll say that it's still waiting to be paid. And once it is paid, it'll show as paid. You can do a lot of great things from that page. That's where you can print your packing slip that you can put inside your package. It's a copy of their invoice showing that it's been paid. That's where you can add the tracking number. After you have that tracking number, you can add it in. A copy of that tracking number will be, or a copy of that tracking information will be sent to the buyer, so now they have that. And you always want to put in your tracking information with PayPal so that PayPal knows that you did in fact make that shipment, and they have a reference to that shipment. And that is where you can do your refunds, your partial refunds, and many other options. You can even print shipping labels from there. It's all really easy to use. So yeah, I hope that I have been able to help you understand how to create a PayPal invoice and what you can do, what services are offered, or sorry, I guess features are offered with the PayPal invoices. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask, and I will do my best to get those answered for you. And thank you for watching.